Hey everyone, it is Tanya. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new here. Today I'm back with another apartment renovation, and I am renovating 2B Jasmine Suites in the Spice District of San Myshuno. And this is going to be an apartment for a older brother who is raising their younger sister. Originally, when I started this build, all I knew was that I wanted to create a floor plan that I don't think I've done here before, and then it very quickly became sort of a more modern apartment using a similar style and similar like wallpapers and stuff to what I ended up creating for my maze house challenge I did a couple weeks back. And then as I started decorating, the storyline started to sort of take shape, and I decided that this would be for a young adult brother who is raising their child sister, and I think it ends up being such a cute apartment in the end. I really hope you will enjoy it. If you do and you'd like to download it for yourself, it is available right now on the Sims 4 gallery. You can find it under my EA ID, which is Gryphi, Gryphi. You could also find it under the hashtag Gryphi, and that information will be in the description down below as well. And also the very beginning of this build you might recognize, because I did start like the layout and stuff over on my Twitch channel. I do stream 3 to 5 days a week over on twitch.tv/Gryphi if you'd like to join us. All of the information for that will also be in the description, and it'd be really cool to hang out while we do some building. I always think it's a lot of fun, and I also play other games over there as well. Anyway, the layout has pretty much come together now, and we're going to start working on the kitchen. The only thing that changes about the layout actually is I get rid of the wall separating the kitchen from the living room. I decided to keep it more open concept, which you'll see here momentarily, but I did end up using these base game cabinets. I think they are so nice. They are ones that we got in an update earlier in the year to celebrate 25 years of The Sims, and they're probably my favorite base game countertop and cabinet now. They're just so pretty. But anyway, over here is where I'm going to be placing the fridge, and I thought about having an island in here, but I decided to go with a peninsula instead. So it ends up kind of wrapping around and being a U shape, which was the best way for me to still keep the sink centered under the windows, but also include the stove over there and not have a separate stove and oven. And so that is what I ended up doing, and I just think it ends up being really, really cute. I love this layout so much, and it's different than what I typically do for kitchens. So that's always really refreshing. But yeah, just swapping around the fridge and the cabinet, because it feels like the cabinet kind of like sections off the end of the kitchen, whereas having the fridge just out on the side leading into the living room felt a little bit odd. And then I thought I was going to use these sofas from the Refined Living Room kit, but I didn't in the end. I actually ended up using one from Book Nook, and then a like bench from the Grange Mudroom kit. And I really like that, but at first I just thought I was going to go very like black and white, but then I leaned into the blue that is in the tile backsplash that I grabbed, and leaned into like blue and teal for a color scheme, which I thought was so pretty and worked really nicely with the dark blacks and the orange woods. And then also in the kitchen, I did decide to add the new blender that came with Adventure Awaits. I think it's just a fun item to have that your Sims can now make smoothies and the like. It's always fun to get new appliances in the game, so I was excited for that. And then here in the living room, I hadn't yet decided I was swapping sofas, so I was trying to use one of the swatches of this pillow that came in the latest event, and it just wasn't really working. I was trying to tie in the colors from the rug, and I play around with it for a while before I decided to change out the sofa. So I kept that in so you can see the process. I think it's quite realistic to show like all of that. I just sometimes will cut things out or make them a little bit shorter when I spend way too much time on it. But picking out a coffee table now, I ended up using one from the Cozy Kitsch kit. I think it is absolutely beautiful, and that's actually going to be where the TV stand I choose is also from. But here I am swapping out the first of the couches. This one with the blanket on it is from Book Nook, and it's one of my favorite couches in the game, and I just thought it was so beautiful in here. I love the color, and I just added a little pillow to it in a navy color to tie in the tile from the other room. And then this is the bench from Grange Mudroom that I'm also adding some additional cushions to. This is my first time using this bench as sort of a sofa. I thought it worked really nicely here, but it doesn't look like it'd be the most comfortable thing to sit on. I thought it was just more of a decorative piece, as we do have the big comfy sofa and only 2 Sims live here, unless you decide that the brother has a partner. That is an option. And of course, you could play in this house with whoever you have in mind. It doesn't have to be the storyline that I was thinking. But I was imagining the older brother, younger sister idea. And I just think it's such a cute one. I like having different family dynamics in my Sims houses, and it usually helps when decorating. Like I said, it was something that like slowly came to be when I was decorating this space. So I'm starting to get an idea of who lives here. I loved that frame, like whiskey glass in the kitchen. I'm getting some beautiful modern artwork. And I don't really have any kid stuff out in this main area because I don't think it was originally planned that his little sister was going to be living here. So all of her stuff is contained to her room. So the rest of the apartment is very much this style. And then her bedroom is very cutesy. I really love how it came out. I'm excited for you to see that, but that's the last room of this entire apartment. But yeah, just getting some lighting around the TV. I also have lots of plants in here to make it feel super alive and cozy. And I also painted the walls. The white was a little bit too stark, so I decided to go with this cream color. And then behind the couch, I felt like we just needed some sort of table, so I put some books over here, as well as this beautiful lamp from Businesses and Hobbies. I always forget this lamp exists and like never use it, so I used it 3 times in this build. It's here, and then it is both of the side table lamps in the primary bedroom. There's also a record player out here, and I believe some books and plants as well. I got the hydrangeas that I love, and I think a tiny plant too, and a little knick-knack statue item. I don't know what to call it. I guess it kind of looks like a jack. I'm not sure if that's what it is or not. But yeah, that's it for that little table behind the TV. And because I did add the record player, I decided to get rid of the stereo that I originally put under the TV. And I put a keyboard instead, which is from the Comfy Gamer Kit. I thought it would be kind of a useful thing in thought, because in The Sims, they're not actually going to use it this way. But the idea was maybe you use that keyboard to search up things to watch on your television, either your streaming services or YouTube, whatever you'd like. I think that's quite realistic to have a keyboard that you might use on your TV. I don't have that, but I always think it would be a good idea, and I've considered it before. Maybe I will. Maybe this will be the push I need to go ahead and get a keyboard for my living room television. Anyway, the primary bedroom is starting to come together here. I have a seating area. I also have more of these really beautiful modern pieces of artwork. There's a standing mirror and this gorgeous 4-poster bed, which is actually from City Living. It's such a nice item. And every time I decide to finally use it, because it's just one I forget about a lot, I get very excited about it because it's so pretty. I love the texture on the bedspread. It just looks so warm and comforting, and it feels perfect for this time of year as we're getting into the colder months in the northern hemisphere. But yeah, that room is pretty much done now. I'm just going to be cluttering up the bedside tables. Actually, I think only one of them gets a little bit of clutter. I add some plants and a alarm clock over here, and then the other one I just leave with just the lamp. And then we're heading into the bathrooms, which they're both essentially exactly the same, with the exception of I changed a little bit of clutter in the second one. So you can see I just deleted the door and the windows, or not the windows, the door and the lights out of the first one. And now I'm working on this one. And then I'm actually going to copy and paste the room over so I don't have to place everything a second time. And then just swap out a couple of clutter items in the second one. But this one is the ensuite for the primary. And then the other one is considered like the hall bathroom. But they're essentially the same. And I think that's pretty realistic for apartment bathrooms. I've never actually been in an apartment that has more than one bathroom, or I've been in them, but I haven't lived in one. So I don't have like firsthand experience, but I have seen lots of tours online and pictures, and they tend to be like the same thing anyway. So just copying that over, and you can see I'm deleting a couple of things so they don't have the same thing hanging over the toilet. I also change which towels are hung up in here, and I go for these messier ones for the kids' bathroom. It's just one kid, but that's what I thought would look nice. But I did still stick to pretty much the same color scheme you would expect from the original Sim that lived here, because I don't think the little kid is customizing the bathroom. They're just making a little bit of a mess in there. Anyway, this is the entryway. I made sure to have a burglar alarm and a place to hang up your keys. I'm also going to grab some of the new like cabinetry pieces that came with the Grange mudroom kit as like storage. So your Sims can like plan or change outfits here, but it also just looks like a good place to hang up a coat. And then I think the only other things that I put in this hallway are a mirror and an umbrella stand. Oh, and a plant. And I believe also some frames so you can hang up some portraits or whatever photos your Sims take. I always really like adding these. I just think they're such a realistic touch to spaces. and helpful for gameplay to have just an established area where you're going to hang up some photos and have like a little cluster of them. Anyway, we are finally moving on now to the little girl's room, and I ended up using this bed from Tiny Living in this pink swatch. I was really excited about it. We were using this orange wood all over, and so I needed to go ahead and grab that. And it's not a bed I get to use that often, but I think it worked so nicely in here. And then I'm going to change the color of the walls a few different times. At first to this brown or like beige that has a slight pink undertone, but then I change it to a more vibrant pink in a little while. And for the bedside table, I actually ended up just using 2 of these modular cubes. So that way I could decorate them more fully and have all sorts of like fun activities, or not activities, fun toys and like just little objects and things that the sim has collected. So I end up getting some arts and crafts. There's also an imaginary friend over here. I also loved using this new rug that came with Adventure Awaits. It's not one I've gotten the chance to use too much, but I felt like it fit really nicely with the like beige and pink colors I had in here. And this is what inspired me to change the color of the walls. This little mirror here that has the purse hanging off of it, that is from the Pastel Pop kit. And it's just so perfect for a kid's room. I think it is adorable. I also added a little fairy freezer bunny and then I believe a height chart over in the corner. And that's most of what's going to be in here, other than a mirror up above the dresser. And I think a couple of framed art pieces. One of them you can see above the bed right now, but I'm actually going to get 3 of them and put them on the other wall instead, which are all cereal boxes. I just thought that that was a fun addition. Oh, and this new like stuffed animal that they can play with that came with the latest event. It's kind of creepy looking, but I kind of like that. Anyway, that's it for this build. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. You could also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more and click that bell to be notified when I upload. And a massive thank you to my YouTube members for your continued support. If you'd like to become a member yourself, you can click the join button below the video or the link in the description. Please enjoy the screenshots, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.